Welcome to the debate. Today we are dissecting, well, really the soul of a corporate giant. The question is simple on the surface, but pretty heavy. Is the Walt Disney Company still an agile innovator, or has a half-decade of crisis permanently locked it into a defensive crouch?
And it's the classic innovator's dilemma playing out in real time. To figure this out, we're not looking at stock prices. We're analyzing the Disney experiment, which is a study that tracks managerial attention by decoding the specific language used in Disney's 10K filings, specifically that MD&A section from 2020 all the way through 2025. For those not glued to financial disclosures, the MD&A is management's discussion and analysis. It's the narrative part, where executives explain the why behind all the numbers. I'll be arguing that the 2025 text proves Disney has successfully emerged as what the source calls an entrepreneurial rebalancer. They aren't just cutting costs, they're pivoting back to a disciplined form of growth.
And I'll take the opposing view. The data suggests that what you're calling disciplined growth is really just rationalization. I think the language shows a company so weighed down by its own scale and by regulation that it's prioritizing efficiency over the kind of true exploration that built the brand in the first place.
Okay, well, let's look at the evidence. The analysis tracks the aperture of attention, essentially how wide or how narrow management's focus is. If you read the filings from 2020 to 2022, the aperture was tiny. The language was just dominated by words like shutdowns, liquidity, and health safety. I mean, that's pure survival mode.
Agreed. Crisis compresses attention. You can't, dream up new theme parks when the old ones are closed.
Right. But the thesis really hinges on the 2025 filing. The language flips. The survivalist terminology, it just vanishes, and it's replaced by terms like platform integration and aligning creative assets. That signals a strategic inflection. They're no longer reacting to a virus. They're proactively designing a new ecosystem. That is entrepreneurial behavior, just at a massive scale.
But is it, though? Or is it just corporate cleanup? When I read aligning creative assets, I don't hear innovation. I hear cost cutting. You have to look at those transition years, 2023 and 2024. The dominant words were restructuring and profitability. And that momentum carries right into 2025. They aren't looking for the next Pixar, they're looking for ways to squeeze higher margins out of what they already own. That's good governance, sure, but it isn't entrepreneurship.
I think you're conflating recklessness with entrepreneurship. The source material makes a critical distinction here. Disney has moved from growth at all costs, which killed the balance sheets of half the media industry, to opportunity with discipline. The 2025 filing shows they are finally leveraging their IP across streaming, parks, and merchandise in a unified way. That isn't just cleaning up, that's genuine value creation.
But look at the constraints that are still in the text. The analysis highlights that regulatory and political risks remain highly salient in 2025. When your MD&A is filled with concerns about global content quotas and antitrust scrutiny, your management team is absolutely playing defense. You call them a rebalancer, but I see a portfolio manager. A true entrepreneur explores the edge cases. Disney is just fortifying the center.
That's a fair critique of the environment, I'll give you that, but not of the intent. I mean, you can't just ignore the regulatory landscape. The fact that they're pushing platform integration despite those headwinds is what makes it so impressive. They are reasserting entrepreneurial logic inside of a straitjacket. The source notes that risk disclosures no longer dominate the narrative in 2025. That gives them the mental bandwidth to innovate again.
I just worry that the straitjacket, as you call it, has become comfortable. The source discusses how crisis postpones attention. My argument is simply that the postponement has lasted so long that the muscle memory for bold risk-taking has atrophied. Platform integration is safe, it's logical, but it is not the kind of creative leap that went out and acquired Marvel or Lucasfilm.
Well, perhaps boldness just looks different today. The experiment suggests that the cycle of entrepreneurship is recovering. They've survived the contraction. Now, by rationalizing the streaming business, they're building the foundation for the next expansion. You have to stabilize the ship before you can change its course.
I suppose our fundamental disagreement is on the timeline. You see the 2025 text as the start of a new chapter of growth. I see it as the final solidification of a risk-averse culture. They've traded the chaos of creation for the safety of optimization.
Absolutely. Optimization is the fuel for creation, but we can agree on the mechanism the source provides. Crisis narrows the corporate mind, and the data shows Disney's trying to pry that mind open again.
Absolutely. The question remains whether they can open it wide enough to see the next horizon, or if they'll just keep staring at their own balance sheet.
A crucial distinction for any legacy firm. That wraps up our analysis of the Disney experiment. Thank you for listening to the debate.